Power Rangers Cyberforce V2, Chapter 16, A Spell Cast. The Luminaire, who called himself David, entered the Cyber Realm. He stood there in the cyber forest of dead data, and he pulled out a knife. He cut his hand, and the gold blood dripped onto the ground, and seeped into the soil. Then the ground erupted, and the two cyber monsters exploded from the ground. One was based off a turtle. His torso was its shell. His head, arms, and legs were also covered in armor. He was dark green, light green, and brown. The other was based on an alligator. His body was covered in armor-like scales. His head resembled an open mouth of an alligator with his face on the inside. On one arm, he had an alligator head, which could turn to a cannon. On the other arm, he had a collapsed alligator tail, which could extend into a blade or a drill. Welcome to the world of the living. You are my monsters. I shall call you Torture and Predator, David said to them. Why are we here? Torture asked. I am in need of you. My enemy has two teams of rangers, both use the same power sets, which comes from this realm. One of those teams are his champions being made to fight my people. The other are the inspiration to all of this. Both need to be eliminated, David explained. Sounds fun. Where are we going? Predator asked with a gleeful growl. Predator, you're going to Universe 19. Squash the Cyberforce Rangers. Break the Cyberforce name. And you, to torture. You are going to Universe 91. Destroy those pathetic things that William Cranston calls champions, David ordered. Both the monsters bowed at David, and then both of them teleported away and teleported out of the cyber realm. Daisy woke up, climbed out of bed, and headed into the kitchen, where she found her mother making bacon sandwiches. Mom, you're a guest. You shouldn't be making breakfast, Daisy sighed.
Excuse me, a mother can always make her children breakfast, no matter how old they are,
Mrs. Thompson stated with a smile. Timothy and Ace then barged into the apartment with their hands filled with bags of groceries. Morning, babe. Morning, Mrs. T, Ace said as he placed the bags down and gave Daisy a quick kiss.
Morning, boys,
Mrs. Thompson cheered. They all sat down and tucked into their breakfast of bacon sandwiches. So there's a TexCon coming up soon. We have to reserve our tickets. Timothy sighed. Yeah, we should do that for sure, Ace noted.
Looks like we have a mother/daughter day coming up then,
Mrs. Thompson joked. We could do, actually, Daisy replied with a small grin. Both of the girls let out a little chuckle when the trio's communicators started beeping. Well, that's work, we better go, Ace said. The other two hugged their mother and the trio quickly bolted out the door, and they got to the Cyber Museum as quickly as possible and got into the cyber base. What's up, girl? Ace called out as they entered the room. We have a monster situation, but he's strong. Like, the cyber energy coming off of this thing is ridiculous, Haley stated. Hey, we can stop this or whatever else the Vindigo has to throw at us, Timothy said confidently. The Virus Rangers are still in the cyber realm at the moment, so this one's on you three, Haley told them. Come on, team, let's do this, Ace called out. They all hit their morphers and teleported away. They teleported onto the bridge and saw a turtle-themed armoured monster stood there. Alright guys, report says the police have cleared the bridge, so no one's going to be able to go onto it whilst you guys are fighting that thing, so you're all in the clear, Haley told them through their communicators. Hello, Rangers, the monster growled. You know who we are? Daisy gasped. I do. I am the Torture, and I've been waiting for you, the monster chuckled. The wait is over, Snappy. Let's get this dance done, Rangers, Ace barked.
Scan DNA,
Ace called out as he waved his hand over his morpher. The morpher started glowing silver.
Cybercharge,
Ace called out as he slammed his hand down on his morpher, and in a flash of silver light, Ace was morphed into the silver Cyberforce Ranger.
Scan DNA,
Daisy called out as he waved her hand over her morpher. The morpher started glowing white.
Cybercharge,
Daisy called out as she slammed her hand down on her morpher, and in a flash of white light, Daisy was morphed into the white Cyberforce Ranger. Scan DNA, Timothy called out as he waved his hand over his morpher. The morpher started glowing orange. Cybercharge, Timothy called out as he slammed his hand down on his morpher, and in a flash of orange light, Timothy was morphed into the orange Cyberforce Ranger. The Silver Ranger ran ahead and summoned his cyber hatchets. He then swung them to torture. The blade hit the monster's chest, but the monster was not phased at all. The White Ranger summoned her cyber deck, jumped into the air, and made it rain cards upon the monster. The monster just stood there as the cards bounced off of it. The Orange Ranger ran in at the monster and quickly summoned his cyber shield. He threw the shield at the monster's back, and it bounced off its hard shell. As he caught it, he then slammed it against the shell as hard as he could, but with no resolve. "Ha ha! My turn!" the Torture chuckled. The monster spun around and slammed the back of his hand against the Orange Ranger, backhanding him off of his feet. Then he turned to the other two. The Silver Ranger swung its hatchets, but the Torture grabbed both of the axes by the blades. Then he yanked both of them out of the Ranger's hands. He then booted the Silver Ranger in the chest, sending him back. The White Ranger jumped in and threw a jab. The Torture grabbed the White Ranger's fist, and then grabbed her waist and lifted her off the ground. The monster's chest piece then opened up, and a blast of energy fired from the chest and hit the White Ranger, sending her flying back and crashing into an abandoned car. Then the Torture charged up his chest cannon once again, and the Silver and Orange Rangers both ran at the Torture. Then suddenly a green energy wave pulsed off its shell and washed over the two Rangers. Both the Rangers slowed down, being forced to move ever so slowly, like they were being put on slow motion, forced to move as slow as a tortoise. "I can't move any faster," Your Ranger said, in the middle of an extremely slow jump. "Now, I'll destroy your White Ranger," the Torture cackled. The cannon fired. The White Ranger tried to stand, but her body was too weak from the first cannon blast. The energy shot flew at her, then suddenly a red figure jumped in the way. The red figure held out his hand, and a red energy glyph appeared before him, deflecting the energy blast. The figure stood and flicked his red coat as the glyph phased away. "And who are you?" the Torture growled. "You can call me Kamen Rider Wizard," the red figure yelled out. Kamen Rider Wizard?" the White Ranger questioned as she stood up. Kamen Rider Wizard slid on a ring and then placed it in front of his belt. "Final strike!" his belt roared. Kamen Rider Wizard jumped into the air, and then he flew out to Torture. A glyph appeared before him as he flew through it. The energy encased Kamen Rider Wizard in flames, and he flew straight at Torture and kicked him with a fiery kick. The turtle-themed monster slid backwards ever so slightly. "I'm done here," the Torture growled. Then he teleported away. Both the Silver and Orange Cyberforce Rangers broke out of their slow-motion trance, and the Rangers all grouped up and faced Kamen Rider Wizard. "Wait, who are you?" the Silver Ranger ordered. "No one you need to know," the Kamen Rider Wizard barked back. "Why did you just save me?" the White Ranger asked. "I had to," Kamen Rider Wizard replied. The rider then turned around and walked off. "Hey, where are you going?" the Orange Ranger called. "Do not get in my way, Rangers," Kamen Rider Wizard growled back to them. Then he walked off. The Rangers demorphed and all stood there rather confused. "I didn't realize Kamen Riders were around here," Timothy stated. "Normally they don't," Daisy said with a sigh. Stingnet sat at the table with his niece, the newly formed Davindigo. They sat there eating a meal when suddenly the door burst open and a set of stickers were thrown into the room. Then two monsters walked in. "Lord Stingnet, we are to Torture and Predator. We are generals, here to offer our services to you and your niece," Predator stated. Both monsters bowed before Lord Stingnet and Davindigo. "And why would myself and my dear uncle here need your assistance?" Davindigo asked with a sneer. "We have both come from being moments away from defeating both teams of Cyberforce Rangers that hinder you. Give us some time. Give us allies. Give us a chance and we can defeat them. For sure," the Torture replied. "I am intrigued. Consider yourselves on trial. Do yourselves well. We might put you on the Cyber Realm general table," Stingnet stated. Both monsters bowed once again. Stingnet was then told which monster went to which universe. Fine. Both of you will stay with the universes you've both visited. Predator, stay with me, and we shall see what we can do about those Cyberforce pests. To torture, you shall go with my lovely Divindigo, and you shall continue to destroy this second team, Stingnet ordered. Divindigo sat there with an evil grin on her face, and both monsters bowed before their new lord, and Stingnet sat there curious on where these new generals came from. Haley sat there at her monitor, trying to figure out who exactly Kamen Rider was, and why was he in Blessington in the first place. She scoured every possible lead she could possibly find, spending long hours staring at the monitor, till it reached gone midnight. She rubbed her tired eyes, when suddenly her communicator started to beep.
What you have just listened to is a product created by the Three Ranger Bros Studio.
Hosted by three cosplaying fathers who
happen to be massive geeks of all sorts of fandoms.
They are Mark, the Red Cornish Ranger,
Cosplay Dude 637,
and Tai Tiger.
The studio covers different types of YouTube videos, TikToks, podcasts, and live streams.
If you wish to find out who cosplays who, the YouTube channel, the TikTok accounts, and the podcasts, and all of the other social media platforms,
please go to the 3rangerbrostudios.com.